There's a common thread between all artists in the spotlight today that most people just don't realize. Whether that's X, Lil Peep, Juice WRLD, or any artist that you look up to, they all just have a few things in common that allowed them to achieve the major success they've seen. The reason why many artists feel like they don't have the success they deserve and feel stuck in their journey is because they are missing these key factors that make artists stand out and succeed. In this video, I'll be going over the stories of XXXTENTACION, Lil Peep, and Juice WRLD to illustrate what most artists are missing in their art. One of the things that made X stand out the most was his rough childhood. He explains in interviews and podcasts how his parents didn't give him enough attention, and because of this, he would constantly get in fights at school.
I used to beat at school type just to hear my mom yell at me or talk to me.
X felt like an outcast and didn't have many friends. To add on to this, his father would get arrested and he would witness his uncle's tragic death. All of this negativity led X to become even more alone, depressed, and violent. He would get in violent fights just to hear his mom yell at him. He wanted the attention and he got it any way he could. He liked fighting for people that couldn't fight for themselves, which became a recurring theme in his music. Because of this, his mom would kick him out of the house in the 8th grade. He was homeless, he had no direction, and he was forced to experiment with drugs just to keep himself sane. X got arrested for possession of marijuana, and this would change his life forever. He went to juvenile detention center, and this would be where he met Stokely Cleveland Gilborn, or Ski Mask the Slump God. The rest was history. X and Ski would become one of the most iconic rap duos of the last 20 years, and it wasn't for no reason. They would bounce flows off each other like it was nothing, and together, they would make some of the most popular music of the last 10 years. What we should learn from X and Ski is the teamwork and community they had is exactly what we lack. Many of us isolate ourselves and stay by ourselves because it is comfortable. It's easy. After all, this is what X did too. But as soon as X found some sort of community, starting with Ski, then building up Very Rare and members only, he would skyrocket.
The other compilation of artists that is big. It's phenomenal, bro. I never seen nothing like it.
He had a team of people around him, not only to work together, but to bounce ideas off each other and to stay inspired and motivated. Members only had photographers, producers, rappers, designers, and anybody who could at least help with something for the group, no matter how small. A lot of times, the importance of this sense of community gets overlooked. If we want to grow as artists, this is the first thing to think about. X's music blew up out of this collective. His music was raw, distorted, aggressive, and his first viral hit, Look at Me, was the perfect anthem for an angry and depressed generation. It had an unmatched energy that would infamously inspire Drake's flow on his song KMT. This sound would be what blew X up, but eventually, with the release of 17, we would see X change the entire direction of his sound. Many of the songs of 17 were lo-fi, laid back, and depressed. The angry and youthful energy that X once had was gone, replaced with the melodramatic guitar and vocals of Shiloh. This would be the sound that grew X's audience even more. This sound resonated with so many because not only was it raw, but it perfectly enhanced the authenticity that X would reveal at the time. Many of his interviews, vlogs, speeches were very somber. X would openly reflect on his life experiences, his traumas, and rough upbringing, and people related to that. Because X was so authentic and open, it allowed his connection to his audience to deepen far beyond that of any other rapper. His music and message was perfect for a generation just as depressed and alone as he was. In our journeys, the best thing we can do is open ourselves up to our audience, speak what's on our minds, have no filter, and let our fans into our world. Share your flaws, weaknesses, and insecurities. Share stories. This is the only way to build a loyal fan base that will last a lifetime. No gimmicks, no fronts, just pure honesty and experience. X wanted to be the voice of the youth, to fight for those who are too afraid to speak up, for those that needed help, and he achieved it perfectly. Even after he's gone, his music's impact will be left for decades, with his voice and message leaving a lasting impact. His attempt at bettering himself and his life will continue to inspire the new generation, and as the next generation of artists, we should follow in his footsteps and learn from his successes. Before I reveal what made Juice WRLD blow up, let's see what Lil Peep did to rise to fame and what kept him motivated through his lowest lows. Lil Peep's journey is by far the most relatable. His early years of being a young rapper were filled with ups and downs. As a young kid, Lil Peep took dance classes, could draw, play piano, guitar, and even wrote short stories. When he was in middle school, he started to feel like he didn't fit in, and his grades started to slip because he cared less about school. Why would you care when you have no one around you? Once his parents separated in 10th grade, everything changed. Lil Peep started getting tattoos, taking and the friends he did have said Peep became a completely different person. His mom encouraged him to take therapy, but the only therapy he had was the he took. He felt like no one could relate to what he was going through as he sat in his room for days, depressed. One day, he saw how people were making money off their music online. So when he had no other hopes, he started to put all his time and energy into music. His attention towards school dropped even further because of his love for music, and he would hop fences just to leave the campus. At the age of 18, he would leave for California and Glendale Community College. He moved in with his producer friend, but they could hardly afford rent and barely had enough to live. He was obsessed with music, but it just wasn't where it needed to be. On one hand, he wanted nothing else but to make it in music, but his sound was not developed enough to attract an audience. But he kept going, and it would pay off. As soon as he got comfortable enough to share his work online, he started to gain some traction. He would get a lot of positive feedback, and it would be exactly what he needed to push forward. More and more people would find his music, and Peep would start collaborating with musicians and producers online, which eventually turned into the group Schema Posse. He was finally able to be vulnerable in his music and put all of his emotions into his craft. This authenticity made him and his work stand out. It was unique. Peep would move back to California with his producer friend Brendan, but this time he would invite the new artist friends he met online to join them. This would change everything. He was more motivated than ever, more consistent, and more excited simply because he was surrounded by like-minded people who wanted it just as bad.
Bumping Tracy since 2012.
Lil Peep suffered greatly, but he was finally coming out on the other side. Him and his group would start to perform at shows, and he would outshine the group, even Lil Tracy. His audience grew thanks to interviews, music videos, and any other performances he had. People found comfort in his music and its dark themes. It was relatable. Lil Peep was so successful because he never quit. What we don't realize is the only difference between an amateur musician and a professional, successful one is the one who succeeds never quit. A lot of times in our journey, we can let the low periods affect us and even halt our progress. But if we keep going, we are bound to succeed. The problem is, when you rely on your music to fill the void, it will never be filled. Peep was surrounded by successful musicians and was starting to gain a lot of traction. He was touring the US, but he still wasn't happy. He was exhausted. The constant traveling for shows and performances wore him down, and this exhaustion would lead to his unfortunate passing in the middle of his tour, on his tour bus, in his friend's arms.
My brother just died in my arms, man. I'm done with this shit, man, forever.
Sure, his journey is relatable, but the pressure we put on ourselves to succeed oftentimes will be our downfall. His story is relatable, but tragic. He had a variety of talents, was authentic in his music, had a team, he was motivated, but it didn't matter in the end. His unfortunate passing shows us the reality of the artist's journey, the depressing pressure and hopelessness that being an artist comes with. Lil Peep's goal in music was to save people's lives through his music. Who knew it would end up taking his? One of the main things that set Juice WRLD apart was his variety of influences. As a kid, he would listen to a variety of music like Fall Out Boy and Blink-182. He listened to a lot of this music simply because his mother did not approve of it. Juice began learning the piano at 4 years old, and his music taste broadened even more. He was introduced to rap at his cousin's house, where he would listen to artists like Gucci Mane and Young Jeezy. This introduction to rap is exactly what made Juice WRLD start. Because he wasn't allowed to listen to this music, he would rap these songs through memory and fill in the parts that he didn't remember with his own freestyles. He discovered he had musical talent. What we see with Juice as a young kid is the unfortunate appeal that rap artists give to Juice. Around this time, Juice started looking up to Future and was inspired by him to start drinking and taking drugs. Was this the start of the end? In high school, Juice the Kid started a school radio show with his friends where he would freestyle live on air.
Crazy, but my bars going insane. You hear it on the radio.
His friends encouraged him to make music, and this school would be where he started to develop his first type of an audience. Throughout Juice's journey, we see how he grows with those around him. The whole story of him blowing up with Side Piece and Nick Mira was because they had the grit and the vision to come together and rise together. Time and time again, we see this with the most successful artists simply because it is much harder to do it alone. I'd say it's impossible, but it's the times where we have the most potential that test us the most. Around this time, Juice WRLD started doubting his sound and was considering taking a break from his music. Think about that. One of the most successful artists doubted his sound before he blew up. What does that mean for us? What happens if we keep going? Luckily, Juice doubled down and would start to drop songs more consistently. With tapes like 999 and Goodbye and Good Riddance, his sound would develop even further. His songs Lucid Dreams and All Girls Are the Same would get the attention of Cole Bennett and Lyrical Lemonade, who wanted to give him a new platform. When the All Girls Are the Same video dropped, both Juice WRLD and Nick Mira would skyrocket to the top of the rap industry. With a back catalog of great music and even more coming, Juice would have a long-lasting and successful career. All he needed was that one opportunity, and everything changed. It was because of his diverse background and consistency that allowed Juice to capture the attention of millions. Juice could rap, sing, play guitar, and even play piano. His sound was fresh, and his vocal melodies were top-notch. In high school, he clearly saw his talent for music, and he went with it. Just like all of us, there were times he doubted his sound, and he wanted to quit, but he kept going. What helped him stay focused was the connections he started to make. At the time, Nick Mira and Side Piece were not big producers, but they were solid, and that type of team they formed would be very helpful in the long run. Ultimately, the best takeaway for all of these artists is to use your background, your personality, experiences, and everything you have to your advantage. Learn what works for you. There are going to be places you lack that maybe the artists you look up to have, but what makes us unique and stand out as artists is our unique personalities and skill sets that we acquire growing up. Leverage that into your unique sound, branding, image, style, and growth strategy, and you will make it if you keep going.
Mind of Dinah.
If you want to learn all the intricacies of becoming a successful artist and get taught a whole host of creative skills by our team, join the Patreon. And if you want to become a part of our community, join the Discord below. Share your work, get feedback, and grow.